A dead body, sealed inside stone. 16 soldiers standing guard. A 2-ton boulder blocking the only entrance. Friday afternoon, he was declared dead. A Roman spear had pierced his heart. Blood and water flowed. The medical sign of death. Undeniable. Absolute. Sunday morning before dawn, the stone rolled away. The tomb empty. The linen cloth still there, folded, untouched, but the corpse gone, vanished without a trace. This is not legend. This is not folklore. Roman archives document it. Jewish historical records confirm it. Over 500 people claimed they saw him alive, walking, speaking, eating fish by a fire. For 2,000 years, historians have tried to explain it. Skeptics have proposed theories. None of them have succeeded. Today, we examine every possibility, every angle, every piece of evidence, and what you discover will challenge everything you thought you knew. The event took place in 1st century Jerusalem, a city under brutal Roman occupation. Crucifixion was their preferred method of execution. Public, humiliating, designed to crush any hint of rebellion. Jesus of Nazareth, a religious teacher who had gathered massive crowds, who challenged the religious establishment, was arrested on Thursday night. By Friday afternoon, he hung dead on a cross. Roman soldiers confirmed his death. The centurion's report was clear. He is dead. His body was taken down, wrapped in linen soaked with 75 pounds of myrrh and aloes, placed in a new tomb carved from rock, owned by a wealthy man named Joseph of Arimathea. A massive stone weighing approximately 2 tons was rolled into place, sealing the entrance completely. This was not a small rock. It required multiple men to move. Some historians estimate it stood nearly 5 feet tall. But the story doesn't end there. The religious leaders, terrified of his followers, demanded extra security. They went to Pontius Pilate, the Roman governor, and said, "This deceiver claimed he would rise after 3 days. Guard the tomb, or his disciples will steal the body and claim he rose." Pilate agreed. He deployed a full Roman guard unit, 16 trained soldiers. These were not local militia. These were professional warriors. Their lives depended on obedience. Roman military law was absolute. If a soldier fell asleep on duty, if a prisoner escaped, the penalty was execution. They did not fail. They could not afford to fail. Now imagine the scene. Saturday night, the soldiers stand watch. Torches flicker. The tomb is sealed. The massive stone sits immovable. Everything is secure, routine, uneventful. Sunday morning, just before dawn, something happens. The gospel accounts describe an earthquake, a figure described as an angel. Blinding light, the soldiers fall to the ground, terrified. When they recover, the stone has been moved, not just shifted, completely rolled away. They look inside, the body is gone. But here's the critical detail: the linen burial cloth still there, lying flat, as if the body had simply passed through them. The 75 pounds of spices still wrapped inside, undisturbed. If someone had stolen the body, why would they carefully unwrap it? Why waste precious time removing the cloths? They would grab the body and run. But no, the cloths remain, a silent witness to something inexplicable. The soldiers, trained warriors who had seen battle, who feared nothing, ran to the city. They reported to the chief priests. Panic erupted. If the body was gone, if the tomb was empty, the entire plan had failed. The religious leaders gathered. They made a decision. They paid the soldiers a large sum of money. They instructed them. Say his disciples came at night and stole the body while you slept. But here's the problem with that story. If the soldiers were asleep, how did they know it was the disciples? How did they see anything? And more importantly, why would they admit to sleeping on duty? That admission alone was a death sentence under Roman law. Yet somehow they all agreed to the story. They all accepted the same lie, despite the fatal consequences. This suggests the true explanation was far more dangerous to admit than facing execution. Let's examine the theories, the explanations skeptics have proposed over 2 millennia, each attempting to rationalize the empty tomb without accepting the resurrection. The first theory: theft. The disciples stole the body. On the surface, it seems plausible. Desperate followers wanting to preserve their movement, sneak past the guards, move the stone, take the corpse. But let's analyze this critically. These were 16 professional Roman soldiers, trained killers. They did not sleep, they could not sleep. Their lives depended on vigilance. How would a small group of fishermen and tax collectors overpower them? Even if they could, how would they move a 2-ton stone in complete silence? Stone scraping against stone, that sound would echo. It would wake everyone. And why? Why would they carefully remove the burial cloths? If you're stealing a corpse in the middle of the night, you grab it and run. You don't stop to unwrap it, fold the linens, arrange everything neatly. That makes no sense. And here's the final blow to this theory. Every single one of Jesus' disciples, except John, died as martyrs. They were tortured, crucified, beheaded, stoned. They refused to recant their testimony, even facing death. People don't die for a lie they invented. They don't endure torture for a hoax they created. Humans break under pressure. They confess. They save themselves. Yet not one of them ever said, "We made it up. We stole the body." 11 men went to their graves proclaiming they had seen him alive. That level of conviction, that unwavering testimony unto death, it demands explanation. The second theory: he never... The evidence against it is overwhelming. Roman crucifixion was designed to guarantee death. Soldiers were professionals. They knew death when they saw it. But let's assume for a moment he somehow survived. Consider the physical state he would be in. 6 hours of crucifixion, massive blood loss, severe dehydration, a spear thrust into his side, piercing the pericardium, causing blood and water to flow. This alone is a medical sign of death, the separation of blood cells from serum. It only happens after the heart stops. But let's continue the scenario. He's barely alive, wrapped in 75 pounds of burial spices, sealed in a tomb with no food, no water, no medical care. For 3 days, he then somehow regains consciousness, unwraps himself, pushes aside a 2-ton stone from the inside, somehow overpowers or sneaks past 16 armed guards, walks miles on feet that had been nailed through, and appears to his disciples, looking healthy enough to convince them he had conquered death. Does that sound plausible? Would a half-dead, bleeding, limping man inspire the message, "He has risen in glory"? The disciples would have pitied him, nursed him back to health. They wouldn't have launched a worldwide movement proclaiming victory over death. This theory collapses under the weight of medical and logical impossibility. The third theory: they went to the wrong tomb. Perhaps in their grief and confusion, the women went to the wrong burial site, found it empty, and concluded he had risen. But this falls apart immediately. Joseph of Arimathea's tomb was well known. He was a wealthy member of the Sanhedrin. His private garden tomb was not some unmarked grave in a public cemetery. The women had been there Friday evening. They watched Joseph place the body inside. They knew exactly where it was, and even if somehow they were confused, the religious leaders knew the location. The Roman guards were stationed at the correct tomb. If this was simply a case of mistaken identity, The authorities could have ended the resurrection claim instantly. Just produce the body. Show everyone the corpse. Parade it through the streets. The movement dies immediately. But they didn't. They couldn't. Because the body was not in any tomb. It was nowhere to be found. The fourth theory, mass hallucination. Perhaps the disciples, overwhelmed by grief and religious fervor, experienced psychological visions. They wanted so desperately to see him alive that their minds created the experience. But hallucinations don't work this way. They are individual, subjective, personal. No two people hallucinate the same detailed experience simultaneously. Yet the resurrection accounts describe group sightings, multiple people at the same time seeing the same thing. The Apostle Paul records that over 500 people saw him alive at once. Hallucinations don't occur in groups of 500. They don't happen repeatedly over 40 days. They don't involve physical interactions, eating food, touching wounds, extended conversations. Thomas, one of the disciples, was deeply skeptical. He said, "Unless I see the nail marks in his hands, unless I put my finger where the nails were, unless I put my hand into his side, I will not believe." This is not a man prone to hallucination. This is a hardcore skeptic. Yet he later proclaimed, "My Lord and my God." He died as a martyr in India, killed for his testimony. What changed his mind? What evidence convinced the ultimate doubter? So, if theft is impossible, if survival is medically absurd, if wrong tomb is easily disproven, if hallucination violates psychology, what remains? The accounts describe physical appearances over a 40-day period, different locations, different groups of people. Mary Magdalene encounters him in the garden. She mistakes him for the gardener. He speaks her name. She recognizes his voice. 2 disciples walk with him for miles on the road to Emmaus. They don't recognize him at first. He explains the scriptures to them. Then breaks bread. Suddenly, they know. He appears to the disciples in a locked room. They think he's a spirit. He says, "Touch me. See my hands and feet." A ghost does not have flesh and bones. He eats a piece of broiled fish in front of them, proving he is physical, tangible, real. He appears to them by the Sea of Galilee. He cooks breakfast. He asks Peter 3 times, "Do you love me?" Restoring their broken relationship. These are not vague, mystical visions. These are detailed, physical, interactive encounters. He appeared to James, his own brother, who had not believed in him during his lifetime. James later became a leader of the Jerusalem church. He was thrown from the temple and stoned to death for his faith. What could possibly transform a skeptical brother into a martyr? Only one thing: seeing his brother alive after watching him die. Shh! The historical ripple effect cannot be ignored. Within weeks of the crucifixion, thousands of Jews in Jerusalem began proclaiming the resurrection. This is the same city where he was executed, the same population that witnessed his death. If it was a hoax, it would have been exposed immediately. The body would have been produced, the movement would have collapsed. Instead, it exploded. It spread across the Roman Empire. People abandoned their ancestral religions. They faced persecution, imprisonment, execution. Families were torn apart, livelihoods destroyed, all because they believed one truth: he rose from the dead. This was not a legend that developed centuries later. This was immediate, first-generation testimony, people who had been there, who had seen, who had touched, who were willing to die rather than deny what they knew. The physical evidence of the burial cloths deserves special attention. Later, a relic known as the Shroud of Turin emerged, claimed by some to be the actual burial cloth. Scientific analysis reveals something extraordinary. The image on the cloth is a photographic negative, a concept that didn't exist until the 19th century. The image contains 3-dimensional information. It was not painted, no pigments, no brush strokes. Radiation dating has been controversial. But the image formation itself remains unexplained. No, one can replicate it even with modern technology. If it is authentic, it suggests the body released some form of intense energy, enough to scorch an image onto linen, but not enough to burn it, almost like a burst of light from within. The transformation of the disciples provides perhaps the most compelling evidence. On Friday, they were broken, terrified, hiding. Peter had denied even knowing Jesus 3 times. They had abandoned him, fled into the darkness. These were not bold revolutionaries. They were frightened men convinced their movement had failed. Their leader was dead. Their hopes were crushed. But something happened. Something so undeniable, so overwhelming, that it transformed them completely. Within weeks, they were fearlessly proclaiming the resurrection in the streets of Jerusalem. They faced arrest, beatings, imprisonment. They never wavered. They never recanted. They spread across the known world. They planted churches in hostile territories. They died brutal deaths, crucified upside down, beheaded, boiled alive, stoned. Yet not one ever said, "We were wrong, it didn't happen." What could cause that level of transformation? What could turn cowards into martyrs? Only one thing. They had seen him, alive, risen, victorious over death. Every alternative theory requires more faith than the resurrection itself. You must believe that 16 Roman soldiers all fell asleep simultaneously, risking execution. You must believe that a barely alive, mutilated man could inspire a resurrection message. You must believe that 500 people hallucinated the same vision. You must believe that the wrong tomb theory fooled everyone, including the authorities who could easily disprove it. Or you must accept the simplest explanation. The tomb was empty because he rose. The body was gone because death could not hold him. The disciples were transformed because they encountered the living Christ. For 2,000 years, this event has divided history, changed civilizations, transformed billions of lives. It remains the central claim of Christianity. The Apostle Paul wrote, "If Christ has not been raised, our preaching is useless, and so is your faith." Everything stands or falls on this single event. The empty tomb is not a minor detail. It is the foundation, the anchor, the undeniable reality that demands a response. You can dismiss it, you can explain it away, you can choose not to believe, but you cannot ignore it. The evidence exists. The testimony endures. The tomb remains empty. So here is the question that echoes across 2 millennia. The question every person must answer for themselves. What happened on that Sunday morning? Where did the body go? How do you explain the empty tomb, the transformed disciples, the explosive growth of Christianity in the very city where he was killed? The evidence is there. The witnesses testified. Many of them died for that testimony. The choice is yours. Write it off as legend. Or consider the possibility that something impossible, something miraculous, something world-changing actually happened. That death was defeated, that the grave was conquered, that the resurrection was real.